Chapter 1025. Empress Xianda was so dignified that one couldn't see anything wrong with her, but the more calm she was, the more uncomfortable it made people feel. Shun Miao saw that a large piece of Empress Xianda's skirt was wet and thought that she must have been at the pond with Consort Jing. When Consort Jing fell into the water, Empress Xianda's clothes were also wet. However, probably because he had been worried about Lu Jing, he didn't bother to change into a clean set of clothes. She nodded and said, "All right." Emperor Yong Lu stared at Empress Xianda and didn't speak. In the room, Jing Fei's calls became more and more delicate. Empress Xianda said, "Your Majesty should go in early to see. The one who is tired is not Jing Fei, but the child in Jing Fei's stomach." Finishing, she didn't care what expression Emperor Yong Lu had and pulled Shen Miao away. As soon as they left the Jinghua Palace, the air outside seemed to be much fresher. Long Ye's bitter summer was about to end. Not long after, the weather would gradually turn cold, and it would be the beginning of autumn. Nowadays, the better the flowers bloomed in the summer, the more desolate the withering ones would be in the future. Shun Miao lowered her head and thought of the strange atmosphere between Emperor Yong Lu and Empress Xianda just now. She felt that Empress Xianda was a bit tired today. Even when they were in Jinghua Palace, she was at odds with Emperor Yong Lu. This was different to Empress Xianda's steady personality. Maybe it was because of Jing Fei's child? That's right. Empress Xianda had no children. Ever since the first time Shen Miao entered the palace, she discovered that Emperor Yong Lu was currently in his prime but did not have any heirs. The reason why the Lu and Yi clans had so many followers in the imperial court, aside from the power left behind by the previous emperor, was that they did not have any heirs. No matter how one looked at it, an emperor without his own children would not last long. But now Jing Fei had one. If Jing Fei gave birth to a son, would he have to be the future heir apparent? Then wouldn't the world be tied together with the Lu family in the end? Outside relatives monopolizing power was what Emperor Yong Lu didn't want to see the most. No wonder Emperor Yong Lu wasn't happy at all when he heard Jing Fei was pregnant. However, Empress Xianda's unhappiness was probably not only because of the position of Empress, but also because of her jealousy as a woman. Bystanders could see more clearly. Looking at a problem from an outsider's point of view was always the clearest. It was the same for Shun Miao. The way Empress Xianda looked at Emperor Yong Lu was exactly the same as how she looked at Fu Xiaoyi. She loved her husband deeply, but in the end, another woman was pregnant with her husband's child. Even someone as calm as Xianda Empress would feel a sliver of displeasure in her heart. She was just a woman after all. Qin Wang Fei. Empress Xianda's voice came into her ears. Shun Miao recovered to her senses, and Empress Xianda was already looking at her with a somewhat tolerant smile. "You were lost in thought and did not even hear what Ben Gong said." Shun Miao quickly apologized. "One has offended your ladyship. There is no need to be like this." Empress Xianda did not put it to heart and said, "It is so late. It is natural for people to be distracted due to tiredness. Qin Wang Fei does not have to blame yourself." As Shun Miao walked, she could not help but ask, "Your ladyship, this official's wife wants to ask you something." "Excuse me, did you really push Consort Jing into the water?" Empress Xianda paused for a moment and then looked at her with a smile. "What does Qin Wang Fei think?" "Her ladyship would definitely not do that. Consort Jing did not just enter the palace, and your ladyship had lived peacefully with her for many years, so it is not worthwhile to deal with her at this critical juncture." Shun Miao said, "So this official's wife is very curious. Why did your ladyship admit to this crime?" Empress Xianda stopped her footsteps and looked at Shun Miao with a smile. "You really believe in Ben Gong. Actually, it is strange to talk about it. The first time Ben Gong saw you, I felt that you are very similar to Ben Gong, but your temperament is more intense. Most likely it is because your father is a military general. Ben Gong had heard a lot of things about you. Even though you have many methods and schemes, you have the heroic spirit of a family of generals when you do things straightforward and efficient. Ben Gong cannot do it, as civil officials pay particular attention to roundabout ways. Even if Ben Gong wanted to be extreme, It would be soft and soft until the end. So you and Bengong are ultimately different. Chapter 1026. Shun Miao was silent. Empress Xianda smiled again. Bengong, indeed, do not need to push her into the pond. The Emperor understands this logic, and the Liu family also understand. The only one that does not understand is Liu Jing. As for this crime, it does not matter. The purpose of framing a person is to deceive the world. But even you who just came to Longyi know about this lie, much less the officials of Longyi. Shin Miao asked, "Does your ladyship not explain?" Bengong is too lazy to explain and disdain to explain. Do what Jing Fei wants. Bengong does not care at all. Empress Xianda said lightly. Shin Miao thought that in this aspect, she was completely different from Empress Xianda. If it was not her own crime, no matter how disdainful she would not admit it herself. No matter how she changed, she was still fierce in her bones. Empress Xianda was like a puddle of water, tolerant and calm, making others feel that they were very small in front of her. As they were talking, unknowingly, Wei Yang Palace was already in front of them. Tao Gugu was waiting at the door, and seeing the two of them return, she quickly walked in front of Empress Xianda and said, "Is your ladyship well? Is Jing Fei Nyang Yang all right?" After Jing Fei fell into the water, Empress Xianda let Tao Gugu return first. Tao Gugu had been worried, but Empress Xianda only returned now. Empress Xianda did not answer Tao Gugu's question and smiled. "Nothing. Bengong will go and change clothes first. Tao Gugu, bring Qinwang Fei to the hall to sit and pour some hot tea for her." Finishing, she went inside to change clothes. Tao Gugu brought Shun Miao to the hall, and the tea was just right. Tao Gugu poured tea for Shun Miao and could not help but ask, "Qinwang Fei, what is the matter with that Jing Fei Nyang Yang? Nothing serious happened, right? What took you so long?" He was a loyal servant who was burning with anxiety. Shun Miao thought about it and said, "Jing Fei is fine, and the child in her stomach is also well." Tao Gugu was startled and almost spilled the tea. When she reacted, she quickly stopped her actions, but her face was very pale. Shun Miao saw her like this and asked, "Previously when Jing Fei was pregnant, you all did not know?" Tao Gugu forced a smile. "Qinwang Fei is joking. How would she know? If she knew, she didn't continue." Shun Miao did not miss the flash of anger and resentment on Tao Gugu's face as she thought what would happen if she knew about it. Would she first snuff out the child in her belly, like the women in the harem often did? Just as he was thinking, Empress Xianda came out from inside. She changed her clothes, and the one that she changed into was a moon-white gauze long dress that was faintly discernible, embroidered with orchids. One had to say that after taking off the Empress's court attire, Empress Xianda's temperament was like a different person. When Shun Miao looked carefully, she felt that Empress Xianda's brows were light but comfortable, and her entire body had the taste of a historian. It was similar to Pei Lang, but it was more elegant than Pei Lang. She walked over and sat down beside Shun Miao. She picked up a cup of tea and smiled. One is very sleepy at night, and with such a cup of tea is much warmer. Tao Gugu suddenly knelt down and said, "Nyang Nyang, do you still have the mood to drink tea?" Empress Xianda was startled for a moment and said, "What is this for?" There was a faint harshness in her tone. Tao Gugu was unmoved and still knelt down, but there was some grief and indignation as she said, "Jing Fei is pregnant. She is pregnant and still wants to frame you. You have to endure this. How long do you have to endure for in this lifetime?" These words had somewhat overstepped the identity of a servant to a master, and the originally good atmosphere in the room suddenly turned cold. Shun Miao looked down and did not speak as she held the tea. Empress Xianda said, "Qiu Shui, you have followed Bengong for so many years, and Bengong treat you as a relative, but you are too overstepping the rules." Chapter 1027. Tao Gugu was not willing to stand up. After a moment, Empress Xianda sighed and said, "Never mind. Liu Jing does not know that she is pregnant. Bengong is very clear of Liu Jing's character. If she was pregnant, she would not dare to use the child in her stomach to harm Bengong. She would only protect the dragon's seed and would not let anything happen to the child. But now it is a fact that Consort Jing is pregnant. Tao Gugu raised her head. Your ladyship must also think for yourself. Shen Miao finally was no longer silent. She said, Tao Gugu's words are right. One must consider the matter of Consort Jing. It is not all for your ladyship. Even with the Liu family's current situation, for your majesty, your ladyship cannot just watch from the sidelines. Empress Xianda looked at her strangely, as if she did not think that Shun Miao would speak at this juncture. But she quickly smiled in relief and said, It seems that Jing Xing had told you a lot. Get up, Qiu Shui. Empress Xianda said to Tao Gugu. Bin Gong, do not want to say it a second time. This sentence was already spoken in a commanding tone. Tao Gugu hesitated for a moment before finally standing up. Empress Xianda looked at Shun Miao. Let you see a joke. Qiu Shui is Ben Gong's closest person and wholeheartedly thanks for Ben Gong. One spoke too hastily, but one's heart is good. She sighed. Actually, Ben Gong had always thought that Lu Jing was stupid and Ben Gong disdained to compete with her. But now it seems that Ben Gong was wrong. Lu Jing still has some ability to avoid the seed soup and be pregnant with the emperor's child. Seed soup. Shen Miao's heart moved. Empress Xian told her the secrets of the palace. In fact, the more one knew, the more dangerous it was. Those who knew the secrets of the palace would eventually become fertilizer for the flowers in the palace. But she did not know why. She felt that Empress Xianda only told her this because she wanted to tell her, and not because she knew more. You are a smart one, and think that you have seen that the emperor does not have any children in the palace. It is not because of the consorts or the emperor himself, but because they would drink the seed soup. This Lu Jing had drunk it before, but I don't know why. She must have used some method to get pregnant. This is probably the first in the palace. After saying that, she seemed to have thought of something and smiled. Perhaps it's not the first. I once had a child, but it was a miscarriage. Aunt Tao's eyes reddened when she heard this. Shen Miao's hand that was holding the teacup trembled, and she did not speak. His Majesty often thinks that you are not good, because he thinks that Jing Xing is the best. An ordinary girl, even if she is a fairy, is probably not worth mentioning in his eyes. In the beginning, when Jing Xing said that he wanted to marry a Ming Qi's young lady, His Majesty found people to inquire a lot about you, and after hearing about it, he told Ben Gong that you are vicious. Empress Xian suddenly changed the topic and looked at Shen Miao, but looking at it now, Ben Gong feel that you are very kind. Shen Miao did not understand and heard Empress Xian speaking again. You obviously wanted to ask Ben Gong about the miscarriage, but were afraid that it would cause Ben Gong's heart to be sad, so you endured and did not ask. Shen Miao softly said, This official's wife just do not dare. You are really straightforward. Jing Xing found an interesting wife, and Ben Gong like you even more. Empress Xian smiled. She said, Actually, the matter has passed for a long time, and Ben Gong is already relieved. At the beginning, when Ben Gong was pregnant, Lu Jing added cold herbs into the dim sum that the imperial chefs made. Just a little bit, and Ben Gong's child was gone. At that time, Lu Jing had just entered the palace and was favored, and the Lu family watched. Thus, His Majesty could only punish her lightly. Ben Gong felt that there was no fate between her and the child, so it was fine. Chapter 1028. Just by listening, Shen Miao could already guess the heart-wrenching pain. In the previous lifetime, in the inner palace of Ming Qi, the concubines fought with each other for the emperor's favor. The inner palace was the battlefield for females, and when females were ruthless, they were sometimes even more terrifying than males. Many of the children of the concubines became victims under such circumstances, and no matter how vicious the concubines were, at the moment they lost their children, they would cry out in despair. Did the calm and gentle Empress Xianda in front of her also experience that kind of despair before? Scars would take a long time to heal, and only one would know the pain of scars. The most hateful thing was that one could not even take revenge for the child. Why was this so? Do not blame His Majesty, and do not think that Ben Gong is pitiful. Even though Ben Gong is indeed pitiful, Ben Gong is also an evil person. Empress Xianda said, After Ben Gong's miscarriage, Ben Gong could no longer give birth and would not be able to have children in this lifetime. Thus His Majesty made all the females in the inner palace unable to give birth to his children. If Ben Gong is not good, everyone would not be well off. Shun Miao was startled, because Empress Xianda could not give birth. So Emperor Yong Lu made all the females in the palace unable to give birth? Then Emperor Yong Lu should like Empress Xianda very much, but if he really liked her, why would he let Empress Xianda suffer such a big grievance? Even if Empress Xianda did not mention it, Emperor Yong Lu himself would also want to kill the culprit of his children. So why would he treat her as his favored concubine? Shun Miao only felt that the secrets of the imperial family of the Great Liang were no less than those of the Ming Qi. Empress Xianda saw her startled appearance and suddenly laughed. You really believe it? How would His Majesty give up all the children of the concubines because of Ben Gong? Jing Xing could do it because Jing Xing's luck was good, but His Majesty's luck was bad. He is the emperor. There were many meanings in these words, and Shun Miao did not know how to continue the conversation. But what you said is right. One should naturally plan for the future. Lu Jing, this child, came at the right time, and because of this child, her life was temporarily saved. But the Lu family would not have such good luck. Empress Xianda gently smiled, and her smile became somewhat sharp. The child cannot be kept. In the imperial study, Xie Jingxing's eyes were cold as he spoke to the emperor in front. Zhen knows that it cannot be kept. If it is possible, Zhen hopes that one can force it to be kept. Emperor Yong Lu spoke coldly, as though the person he was about to force down wasn't his son, but someone else. Why didn't you do it just now? Xie Jingxing asked sharply. Qingzhen did not allow. Emperor said. Qingzhen was Empress Xianda's maiden name, and this name had not come out of Emperor Yonglu's mouth for a long time. After a long while, Xie Jingxing then ridiculed. Imperial Saw had always been soft-hearted. Perhaps it was because she pitied her own flesh and blood that had died. Xie Yuan. These words, Emperor Yong, Emperors, Emperors, Emperor, Emperor Qing, Emperor, Emperors, Emperors Long's King, one Emperor, Xie's, and Emperor other Qi, Qing Emperor, King one of the other. I do not care what happens to Lu Jing, and I do not want to care about that child. The Lu family came and left. They definitely think that the child in Lu Jing's stomach is a protective talisman. Why would we give them such a big gift? The emperor who did not have any children suddenly had his only child. So this only child was a life-saving straw. Whether Emperor Yong Lu was willing or not, the position of the heir apparent had landed on the child in Jing Fei's stomach. So when the Lu family came today and saw that Jing Fei was pregnant, they did not make a fuss and quickly left. Maybe in their eyes, Empress Xianda's position as empress was going to be gone soon. They didn't even have time to feel pity and would not be unforgiving. They would just treat it as their benevolence and doing a good deed. They had no worries like this, but what was the reality? Since ancient times, there were 4 words: the affairs of the world are hard to predict. The Lu family always forget one thing. You and I are both surnamed Xie, and the blood of the Xie family flows in our bodies. Emperor Yong Lu said indifferently, and the Xie family are all heartless. Chapter 1029. On the way back, Shun Miao thought about what Empress Xianda said, and her heart could not calm down for a long time. In the end, Jing Fei and her child were safe, and Empress Xianda did not get into any trouble because of this. It seemed to be a very happy ending, but Shun Miao felt that something was not right. When they returned to the residence of Prince Rui, it was almost dawn, and it would be very late if they were to sleep now. Moreover, Shun Miao was not in the mood to rest. When Jing Zhe and Gu Yu saw this, they instructed the small kitchen to cook some sweet soup for both of them. Shun Miao and Xie Jingxing returned to the room and closed the door before sitting at the table. She looked at Xie Jingxing and said, "Now that Consort Jing is pregnant, what should the Lu family do?" Logically, Emperor Wenyong Lu didn't have any other children, so the child Jing Fei was pregnant with was precious. If she was pregnant with a son, then if there were no accidents, the position of the future heir apparent would naturally belong to the child in Jing Fei's belly. Logically speaking, that should be the case. But Empress Xianda's words were very disapproving. This made people think deeply. Unless Emperor Yong Lu had other children, why would he be like this? The Lu family had nothing to fear because of Jing Fei. Was Yong Lu Emperor's plan to deal with the Lu family going to be stopped because of this? Shen Miao felt that it was impossible. When Xie Jingxing heard it, he lightly said, Imperial older brother has already made a move against the Lu family. There is no difference whether he is alive or not. The meaning in these words was that the child in Jing Fei's womb was one thing and the ending of the Lu family was another. At most, Jing Fei would temporarily keep her life because of her child. The Lu family would still fall according to the original plan. Shen Miao frowned. I spoke to her ladyship and felt that it was somewhat strange. One heard that her ladyship had a miscarriage, and it was because of consort Jing. We can't say if this was intentional, but no matter how magnanimous the Empress is, how could she safely watch Jing Fei live well for so many years? Xie Jingxing was pouring tea for her, but his actions paused when he heard this. Shen Miao stared at him. Tell me honestly, why does His Majesty not have an heir until now? Is it intentional or is it a last resort? She thought about it and felt that it was too strange that Emperor Yongle did not have any children. Every emperor, regardless of whether they were wise or incapable, hoped to have as many children as possible. The more princes there were, the more balanced they would be, and the more stable dynasty situation would be. Even for a person like Fu Xiu-yi, he never lacked heirs. Previously, Shen Miao found it strange that Emperor Yong Li's political achievements were so outstanding and the people lived and worked in peace. So how could the court still be unstable until now? Later, when she saw his son, she understood. This was because Emperor Yong Lu did not have any children. Just this point alone was enough to make the courtiers complain. Speaking of which, Emperor Yong Lu was already very impressive. If it was an ordinary emperor who did not have children, not to mention maintaining the balance for so many years, he would have long been stripped of his imperial robes and thrown off the stage to become an ordinary person. Xie Jingxing then looked at Shen Miao after a long time, and his gaze was somewhat strange. You really want to know? After you returned from the imperial hunting grounds, when you were unconscious, I had a premonition that some things would change. But at that time, I had just arrived at Longyi and did not know much about the situation of the Great Liang, so I could not help much. So other than going to the Phoenix Head Manor to look for that expert, I could not help with anything else. Shen Miao said, I do not like to be so passive. If there is a day that you also have something big to do, I hope that I will not be useless. But I do not know anything, so even if I have the heart, how can I help? Xie Jingxing looked at her for a while and suddenly sighed. He was half gratified and half teasing as he touched her head. Our family's Jiao Jiao is not only good at calculating people, but also considerate. Chapter 10:30. Shen Miao pushed his hand away and said, You cannot let me be a rice worm that only knows how to eat. I dare not underestimate you. Xie Jingxing smiled and sighed. Since you want to know, I will not hide it. You once told me that you had a real dream, and that dream was very tragic. Now, what I'm going to tell you is not a dream, but something that really happened. The journey from Longyi to the Ding capital would require at least half a year to reach, even with the fastest horses. Do you always want to know why did I become the son of the Marquis of Lineage? For so many years, I obviously knew about my birth, but did not return to the Great Liang. It is not because I do not want to return, but because I cannot return. His gaze gradually became sharp. Xie Jingxing's real name was Xie Yuan, and his courtesy name Jingxing had the meaning of looking up to the high mountain, doing things in Jingxing, representing that the person who gave him this name hoped that he would be a person of noble character. Not to mention whether the name was successful or not, it showed the deep love of the person who gave him this name. The person who gave him this name was his imperial father Emperor Xiao Wuxie Yilong, and the one who gave him the courtesy name was his Empress mother Empress Jingxian and Empress Xiao. Emperor Xiao Wuxie Yilong was the most outstanding prince in the Great Liang imperial court and held the military power in his hands, stabilized the four seas, was handsome, heroic, and high-spirited. If there was anything bad, it would be because he was the youngest son. The Great Liang imperial family did not support the youngest, and this was the rule since ancient times. But Xie Yilong was too outstanding, and the more outstanding a person was, they would either be indifferent to worldly matters, or they would be ambitious and difficult to quell. Unfortunately, Xie Yilong was the latter, and adding on to the fact that the crown prince was inferior to him, Xie Yilong finally embarked on the road to fight for the throne. Xie Yilong's road to the throne was very smooth. He had an innate advantage as he was born from the Empress, and he had outstanding military achievements. So at the end, Xie Yilong plotted to frame his biological crown prince older brother and angered his biological mother to death, controlling his biological father, and finally successfully obtained the throne of Emperor Xiaowu. In the road to fight for the throne, it was necessary to give up some things like family affection and love. Of course, to Xie Yilong, these were not important. He was an ambitious person, so at the end he married the daughter of the left minister Xiao family. The Xiao family was the head of the civil officials, and by marrying the daughter of the Xiao family, one could almost rope in more than half of the great Liang civil officials. In addition, the daughter of the Xiao family was born to be extremely beautiful, intelligent, and magnanimous. A smart beauty was never a loss. This marriage was actually extremely worthwhile. Therefore, after he ascended the throne, Emperor Xiaowu and Empress Jingxian treated each other with respect. Emperor Xiaowu was a wise ruler, and Empress Jingxian was famous for her virtue. Not long after, Empress Jingxian gave birth to her eldest son, Xieqi, who was made the crown prince. Originally, the Great Liang's territory was gradually expanding, and the country's power was also gradually taking the lead among the three countries. Everything looked very perfect, but in this world, the most difficult thing to retain was the unchanging. Those who go through thick and thin with you may not be able to share your prosperity. Empress Xiao married Emperor Xiaowu at a time of chaos. Both husband and wife excelled in civil and military affairs. Xie Yilong was ambitious. Empress Xiao was steady. Xie Yilong was clever, and Empress Xiao was resourceful. But when the enemies outside gradually disappeared, the spearhead would be aimed at the people around them. Emperor Xiaowu was an ambitious person. When he first obtained the throne, he used tricks. Ambition came from desire. He gradually suspected that the Xiao family had the intention of monopolizing power through their relatives. And the more virtuous and intelligent Empress Xiao appeared, the more suspicious Emperor Xiaowu became. In order to balance the power of the Xiao family, Emperor Xiaowu recruited a large harem. Among these, there were many aristocratic families that were against the Xiao family. He promoted them. The previous court let the Xiao family fight with them, and the harem let Empress Xiao fight with the women of those aristocratic families. Chapter 1031. Empress Xiao was intelligent and had always adhered to the family motto of treating her husband as her god after her marriage. In addition, Xie Yilong was an outstanding man, and they got along well over the years. But those messy women gradually began to rack their brains to give birth to a prince, and even began to threaten Xieqi's position as crown prince. Empress Xiao finally could not sit back and do nothing. Every woman, even the weakest one, could turn into a ferocious beast in order to protect their children. Moreover, Empress Xiao was not a weak rabbit. As the most outstanding lady in the Xiao family, she naturally had her own brains. She began to fight back strongly. Empress Xiao's ability was not to be underestimated, as she was able to survive the chaotic days with Emperor Xiaowu. How could those pampered women, who only knew how to live a comfortable life, be compared to her? They were just asking for humiliation. Xieqi was safe and sound, while Empress Xiao won every battle. Her strength and intelligence greatly deterred those women, and for a while, no one dared to act rashly. However, as intelligent as Empress Xiao was, she also made a mistake. The more outstanding she was, the more Emperor Xiaowu felt uncomfortable. Emperor Xiaowu became more wary of her, and even began to find ways to find her mistakes. In the beginning, he only found a few opponents for Empress Xiao in the back palace and coldly watched them fight. But in the end, he would subconsciously side with one side, and everything Empress Xiao did was wrong. He began to directly and unhesitatingly suppress the Xiao family. Empress Xiao felt very sad, but she still believed that Xiao Wu was her husband and everyone would make mistakes at some point in their lives. She only wanted to protect her position, let Xie grow up safely, and see Xie successfully inherit the throne of Great Liang. Who knew those women would try to harm Xie? During that period of time, Emperor Xiaowu suddenly warmed up to Empress Xiao. Empress Xiao did not know why, and not long after, Premier Xiao suddenly resigned. Xie Yilong was indeed a scheming man. Although the Xiao family was ruthless, they were not as ruthless as Xie Yilong. The Xiao family only had one empress in hundreds of years, and for this empress, the Xiao family did not hesitate to sacrifice themselves. When Empress Xiao learned of this, it was already too late. She only felt disgusted when she knew that those nights of tenderness were Xie Yilong's scheming actions. But she did not expect that she was pregnant. This child in her womb was different from Xie Qi. It had come to this world under Xie Yilong's deliberate and hypocritical scheme. When Empress Xiao was pregnant, she often thought that if he was a son, he must not be like his father. He was ambitious and could come up with endless plots and schemes, but he could not casually take advantage of people's sincerity. That was the most despicable behavior, and also the most shameful. After she was pregnant, it was not convenient for Empress Xiao to fight for many things. But she did not expect that someone would take advantage of her at this time to hit on Xie Qi. Xie Qi was drugged. It was an extremely potent poison. If it weren't for the fact that the head of the Gao clan and Prime Minister Xiao were old friends, the head of the Gao clan would have personally taken action and Xie Qi wouldn't have survived. Although he had lived past that time, the Gao family's patriarch had also asserted that the poison had already entered his intestines. He was merely stalling for time. Xie Qi wouldn't live past 35 years old, and this poison would also affect his children. If Xie Qi had children in the future, they would inevitably be born with congenital deficiencies or carry poison in their bodies. The head of the Gao clan was a rare divine physician in the world. If even he said so, Xie Qi's fate was almost sealed. The other party came for Xie Qi's life. Even if they did not want his life, they wanted to destroy his life. Chapter 1032. Empress Xiao did not expect that she, once the most outstanding daughter of the Xiao family, Empress Jing Xian, who was famous for her virtue, would one day fall into such a state. In order to protect her, her family voluntarily withdrew from the Great Liang's officialdom. And of her two children, one became a cripple who could not live past the age of 40 due to a conspiracy, and the other was the fruit of a vicious plan. The poisoner was found, and it was Emperor Xiaowu's newly promoted favorite concubine. Empress Xiao tied the favorite concubine in the imperial garden, cut her flesh piece by piece, and watched as she breathed her last. At that time, all the palace maids and eunuchs in the imperial garden almost fainted, while Empress Xiao felt it was rather boring. Emperor Xiao naturally scolded the favorite concubine and personally condemned her for her crimes, and even comforted Empress Xiao. Hearing his gentle words, Empress Xiao's heart was as cold as ice, but her mind was filled with wariness and vigilance. Did Emperor Xiaowu know about this? Empress Xiao felt that she and Emperor Xiaowu had been husband and wife for so many years. It was time to re-examine him. Even if Emperor Xiaowu did not know, this favorite concubine was originally promoted to deal with Empress Xiao. The son did not kill the benevolent, but the benevolent died because of me. On one hand, Empress Xiao was on guard, but on the other hand, she pretended to be sad that her son had met with this unexpected disaster. The news of Xie Qi's incurable poison was not spread out, but who knew if it would be known in the future? However, what Empress Xiao was most worried about was the future. The child at her belly was about to be born. Emperor Xiaowu disliked Xie Qi because of the Xiao family. If something happened to Xie Qi in the future, and if the child in her belly was a son, this child would replace Xie Qi's position and sit on the crown prince's seat. Who knows if it would be the next Xie Qi? If it was a daughter, Empress Xiao would not want her to stay in the palace and be manipulated by others. unable to control her own fate. The most important thing was that Empress Xiao was about to start her counterattack. After she gave birth to this child, she wanted to return the pain that the Xiao family, Xie Qi, and herself had suffered double. There would be many inconveniences with a newborn child, and she might even be controlled by others. So, she had to think of a way. Generally speaking, the crown prince who was replaced would be far away from everything that he should have obtained, while the crown prince would obtain things that did not belong to him. Empress Xiao handed over her infant child to her confidant and said, looking up to the high mountain, Jing Xing Xingji, his courtesy name is Jing Xing. If there comes a day when he grows up to be a man of indomitable spirit, he can use overt and overt schemes, but never use a person's true heart. She hardened her heart and looked at her child for the last time before saying, send him away. 2 months and less than half a year's journey. From Longyi to the Ding capital, he ran like a dead horse all the way. That was the first time in Xie Yuan's life that he came into contact with this world. But what welcomed him was escape. In those days of escape, he opened his eyes wide, learned to speak, and learned to fight against the world. In the residence of the Marquis of Lin and in the Ding capital, Princess Yuqing was about to give birth. Empress Zhao's henchmen had followed Empress Zhao's order to send Xie Yuan to an ordinary rich family, far away from the disputes of the court. But on that day, when the henchman was investigating on the streets, he accidentally found out that Princess Yuqing was about to give birth, and the child's name had already been decided, Jing Xing. The henchman thought that this was really a coincidence. That night, the wind and rain were bitter, and there was a heavy downpour in the Ding capital. The rainwater diluted the blood that was spilled in the courtyard, diluted the woman's painful moans, and also diluted the baby's weak cries. Chapter 1033. That child with the surname Xie and name Jing Xing, who was fated with Xie Yuan, died before he was born. The confidant who was carrying the infant hesitated for a moment, but made a decision that made him rejoice for the rest of his life. He changed Xie Yuan to Xie Jingxing, and from then on, Jingxing's name was no longer character. He was the little heir of the residence of the Marquis of Lin and carried Empress Zhao's expectations and Princess Yuqing's expectations to live well in this world. Not long after, the initially chosen wealthy family in the Ding capital was exterminated in one night. One did not know why, but the insiders knew that Emperor Xiaowu finally discovered some clues and traveled thousands of miles to silence them. One did not know if it was fortunate or unfortunate, but because of the confidant's mistake, Xie Jingxing managed to avoid this life and death calamity. It was as if it was destined to be good. That residence of the Marquis of Lin was also filled with filthy matters. Madame Fong and her 2 sons continued to cause trouble, and the only thing that Xie Jingxing could rely on was Xie Ding's favor. But Xie Ding's favor was not necessarily a good thing. Xie Ding was not in the residence for many years, and Xie Jingxing was a young son, and it was already difficult for him to survive in the mouths of the jackals, wolves, tigers, and leopards. If not for Empress Zhao's confidant secretly helping him, one feared that he would have become a pile of yellow soil and meet the real heir of the residence of the Marquis of Lin. Not only that, the Emperor of Ming Qi secretly suppressed the Xie family. In such an environment, Xie Jingxing gradually grew up. He was thankful that the confidant placed him in such a cruel environment so that he would not be too unaccustomed to the rugged road ahead. He was frivolous and had a sloppy smile as he lazily rode the horse through the streets and alleys of the Ding capital. He was unbearably stubborn and gave one a headache, but as Empress Xiao expected, he grew up to be a man of indomitable spirit and a man who could fight against an entire region. He had never used other people's feelings before. On the surface, he casually ridiculed but respected every sincerity. Towards Princess Rong Xin, towards Su Mingfeng, towards the Marquis of Lin, and towards Shen Miao. He lived very well in the Ding capital of Ming Qi, and just by relying on himself, he had the ability to secretly compete with the enemy. What about Empress Xiao? In those years, Empress Xiao missed her youngest son and grieved for her eldest son's encounter and decided to fight back. Aren't you most afraid that the country would fall into the Xiao family's hands? Isn't that what you care about the most? I will take it from your hands and trample it under my feet. At that time, will you feel a trace of regret for what you have done today? Empress Xiao was the daughter of the Xiao family. She was as resourceful as a man. While she was still feeling more energetic due to her anger, Emperor Xiaowu was starting to age. The imperial concubines in the harem distracted him, and his ambition gradually faded away after he thought he could rest easy. Adversity begets adversity and perishes in ease. When Emperor Xiaowu died, only Empress Xiao was by his side. Empress Xiao said, "Your Majesty, don't worry. You and I are husband and wife. I won't let you be too lonely on the road to hell. All the women and concubines in the palace that you have favored, this Xie will have them accompany you. And your children, other than the crown prince, this Xie will not miss a single one." Emperor Xiaowu's eyes widened. Also, Empress Xiao seemed to have thought of something and leaned over to his ear. "Our youngest son is also doing well. In the beginning, your Majesty sent people to pursue and kill him to Ming Qi, but they killed the wrong person. After a few more years, when the court has settled down, this Xie will bring him back to acknowledge his ancestry. The Great Liang's country must be inherited by someone. This Xie is soft-hearted, so the brothers are still surnamed Xiao. If this Xie was as hard-hearted as your Majesty, then the Great Liang's country would really change dynasties. Your Majesty, have a good journey. This country, this Xie will keep it first." Empress Xiao stood in front of the bed and smiled warmly. Emperor Xiaowu died with remaining grievances. Empress Jing Xian became Empress Dowager Jing Xian. Xie Qi became Emperor Yongluo. Xie Jingxing was still in Ming Qi's Ding capital, groping along the dark road. He muddle-headedly found out about his life experience, but was warned that his biological father was chasing after him, and his biological mother trapped his biological father to death. Now that the wind and waves were at their peak, one must not act rashly. Due to a freak combination of factors, Empress Jingxian really did, as she said, and cleaned up the Great Liang's inner palace cleanly. Those who were once domineering towards them, mother and son, finally became Emperor Xiaowu's companions on the road to the Yellow Springs. She said to Xie Qi, who had become Emperor Yonglu, "Aijia is old and cannot manage so many matters outside, but a clean inner palace is something that Aijia can give you. From now on, there will be no villains in the inner palace. You only need to promise Aijia one thing, to hold this country firmly in your hands and never let it decline." The Lu and Yi families were Emperor Xiaowu's confidants and were extremely cunning. A centipede would not fall down even if it died. Because of the complexity of the forces, it was not easy to uproot them. Thus, Emperor Yong Lu had been secretly planning to deal with these two families. Empress Dowager Jing Xian passed away 2 years later. When she was reading the Lu family's memorial, she suddenly fell down and never woke up. The Gao family said that it was because she was mentally and physically exhausted and was like a lamp that had run out of oil. But the day before, she was still talking to Emperor Yong Lu about changing the style of the ceremony this year, and perhaps think of a way to make Xie Jingxing return to the Great Liang. Things were unpredictable. In this lifetime, she finally did not have the chance to reunite with Xie Yuan. Thus they were separated forever. Chapter 1034. Empress Jing Xian's entire life was most likely very legendary. From the most pampered daughter of the Prime Minister to the Empress, she experienced the separation of husband and wife, frame-up, and the separation of mother and son. But at the end, a tooth for a tooth, an eye for an eye, the inner palace of the Great Liang was cleanly dealt with, which made one extremely happy. She was the type of person who became more and more unwilling in adversity. If one were to talk about regrets, the first was that Xie Qi's poison could not be cured, and the second was that she was unable to meet Xie Yuan again. The two brothers, Xie Qi and Xie Yuan, were more like Empress Xiao. In the beginning, Empress Xiao was a great beauty sought after by everyone in Longyi, and it was not an exaggeration to say that she was a stunning beauty. And Xie Qi and Xie Yuan not only inherited Empress Xiao's beauty, but also her methods. Because Xie Qi was in the imperial family, there were some shadows of Emperor Xiao Wu. For example, when he was playing politics, he had to use the power of marriage in order to balance the various forces. But Xie Yuan was different. He was far away in Ming Qi and was in opposition with the imperial family. He did not have a trace of Xie Yilong's shadow, and he had indeed done what Empress Xiao had expected of him. Even though he was not considered a good person, he was definitely not a despicable person. Shun Miao did not think that Xie Jingxing's life was so tortuous and bizarre. Towards Empress Jingxian's life, she could not help but admire her. Empress Jingxian was so similar to her in her previous life, but at the end, she was able to become the winner of this country. But Shun Miao knew that she could not be like Empress Xiao, who had the determination to cut off one's wrist and endure the pain of one's flesh and blood being separated. Seeing her complicated eyes, Xie Jingxing smiled unconcernedly. No need to pity me. I have never seen her before and naturally do not have any attachment to her. He was a young man who grew up alone in the storm and was chased by his biological father since birth and had never seen his biological mother before, but created a more open-minded state of mind than ordinary people. No matter how many things were in his eyes, it was just a smile. But he did not care much about other people's feelings because he did not have any expectations of others from the start. Shun Miao was silent for a moment before saying, "I will accompany you to the end." Xie Jingxing's eyes moved slightly before his lips hooked up into a smile. "Since you sympathize with me, why not compensate me?" His smirk instantly swept away the somewhat sentimental atmosphere that had just been a moment ago. Shun Miao glared at him and suddenly thought of something, but in this case, His Majesty's illness. She did not continue speaking. Since the Gao clan said that Xie Qi wouldn't live past the age of 35, how many years did Emperor Yongle have left? Imperial older brother has already passed his 36th birthday this year. Xie Jingxing said, "It can be seen that one's assertions are not accurate at times. However," he said with a cold expression, "Imperial brother's health is getting worse." "Do the Liu and Yi family know of this matter?" Shen Miao asked. "I heard that after Emperor Xiaowu's death, my mother had silenced all the people in the palace who knew about it. Now, the only people who know about my brother's illness are the master of the Gao family, you, me, and my sister-in-law." Shen Miao's heart jumped as she thought that Empress Jingxian's methods were indeed fierce, but it also solved a lot of worries. Then did the Empress know of his illness before marrying to the Emperor, or was it after marrying to the Emperor? Shen Miao asked. Xie Jingxing looked at her with a smile that was not a smile. "What do you want to ask?" Shen Miao thought that if Empress Xianda knew that Emperor Yongle would not live past the age of 35, would she still marry Emperor Yongle? After all, it was not an easy thing to be a widow at such a young age. But if one only knew about it after marrying in, would one not be deceived for a lifetime? Chapter 1035. If it was you, what would you choose? Xie Jingxing asked. Shun Miao said, "When I married you, I did not like you to the point of being willing to be a widow for you." Finishing those words, she revealed a vexed expression, thinking that this was cursing Xie Jingxing. But when Xie Jingxing heard it, he was very happy and pulled her over, pressing Shun Miao's head into his embrace, and said with a smile, "Oh, meaning that now you like me to the point of being a widow for me?" Not waiting for Shun Miao to answer, he said thoughtfully, "So to speak, when you married me, you also admired me." "Who admired you?" Shun Miao was pressed into his embrace and could not breathe as she spoke in a flustered and exasperated manner. But she heard Xie Jingxing's leisurely voice ringing from the top of her head. "If you like me, then just say it. I have always had tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex, and would definitely not bear to let you be a widow at such a young age." Shen Miao did not get angry, but instead laughed and retorted, "Be a widow? Do not worry. There are not many females in this world that would obediently be widows. There are many disputes in front of a widow, and there are many small brothels in Longyi." Now that she was brought up by Xie Jingxing, she no longer put on airs like before and would occasionally anger Xie Jingxing half to death. Sure enough, when he heard that, Xie Jingxing's actions paused and stared at her carefully before speaking gently. "Want to look for Xiao Yu'er?" His tone was gentle, but Shun Miao felt an inexplicable chill at the back of her neck. Without waiting for her to speak, Xie Jingxing suddenly carried her up and stood up before striding toward the bedside, scaring Shin Miao so much that she screamed, but Xie Jingxing was unperturbed as he said, "You remind me to work hard, so naturally this husband would not dare to be lazy." Tai Yi, who was guarding outside, was caught off guard by the movements of the husband and wife until his old face turned red. He did not know whether to leave or stay as his black face turned red, making it look very interesting. The husband and wife panted for a while before they finally stopped. Shun Miao used Xie Jingxing's arm as a pillow and pushed him to ask, "You have not answered my question previously. Does Her Majesty the Empress know or not? Imperial sister-in-law is such a smart woman. If she doesn't know that she was tricked into marrying into this family, it will be a big problem." Xie Jingxing sighed. When Imperial Mother was choosing a wife for Imperial older brother, she once called Imperial Saw into the palace and said some words. "Mother hates people who take advantage of people's sincerity the most. Even if it's to balance the power, she will let the other party take responsibility." Shen Miao said, knowing but still marrying in. "The Empress really likes His Majesty the Emperor." Xie Jingxing did not speak. Empress Xianda's maiden family was an aristocratic family of scholars. In terms of real power, many aristocratic families could not compare to them. But in the end, Empress Dowager Jingxian chose Empress Xianda to be Emperor Yongla's wife. This was because Empress Xianda's maiden family, the chief scribe's residence, was absolutely loyal. Empress Xianda was just like her title, gentle, honest, intelligent, and generous. Empress Dowager Jingxian was different from Emperor Xiaowu. Emperor Yongla could promote other concubines to balance the power, but he only had one wife, and this one wife was to be with him for life. One's character was even more important. She was able to share weal and woe with others and riches, and was a real lady from a noble family. She was able to withstand the wind and waves, and was able to suppress the brocade. Empress Xianda's maiden family was a loyal and honest person. As for whether Empress Xianda had feelings for Emperor Yongla or not, this was not known. After all, it was a luxury to talk about true feelings in the imperial family. But Empress Xianda had always been calm about the matter of Emperor Yongla not living to the age of 35. Shun Miao said, "If it is only for power, she should plan for herself." Xie Jingxing smiled. "Imperial sister-in-law is very smart and not greedy." Chapter 1036. It was best to not be greedy. Many tragedies were traced back to a single word, greed. They were greedy for power, glory, splendor, and wealth, or greedy for affection. Shin Miao thought for a moment before saying, "Now that Consort Jing is pregnant, how do you plan to deal with the Lu family?" Xie Jingxing played with Shun Miao's long hair and casually said, "What does Lu Jing's pregnancy have to do with us? Water can carry a boat or overturn it." The Lu family thought that they could rest easy with the dragon seed, but in fact they were wrong. With an emperor with dragon seed, some of the opposing people would naturally change sides. How many of the Lu family soldiers are fence-sitters? They can lean towards the Lu family and also lean towards the imperial family. Shin Miao looked at him. "It cannot be just this point, right?" Xie Jingxing raised his brows. "You think? After preparing for so long, it is clear that Consort Jing's pregnancy was an accident. You did not expect this at the beginning." Shun Miao said, "If Consort Jing was not pregnant, how do you plan to deal with the Lu family?" "Simple," Xie Jingxing said. Ever since Imperial older brother ascended the throne, he had been planning to deal with the Lu and Yi families. For so many years, he had been searching for the evidence of the Lu family's army. Now that the collection is more or less complete, it is time to reveal it. At that time, the mouths of the world can be sealed. This is one of the reasons. Secondly, Xie Jingxing said, even though the Lu family's army is powerful in the Great Liang, it is not that there are no other generals. Those generals have almost become imperial older brothers people in private, and also the Mou army had been accumulating strength. Now the matter is much simpler. Either the evidence is shown, or the Liu family pleads guilty. Liu Zhengchun had been arrogant his entire life and would definitely not plead guilty and would turn against the imperial family. It is just nice to catch them all in one fell swoop. When Shen Miao heard him say that, she thought that Xie Jingxing and Emperor Yong Lu were indeed brothers. The way they dealt with people was not at all roundabout and was very simple and crude, but also effective. Perhaps this was also inherited from Empress Xiao? She said, if it is like this, then why the need to prepare for so many years? One would be able to contend at the beginning. If one started early, then there would be a lot of time left. Xie Jingxing leaned close to her ear and said, young lady, you need to know that our Xie family's men do not like to be sloppy and do not like to be evenly matched. If we want to do it, we will pull it up by the roots. The Liu family's roots are too deep. The earlier we start, the harder it will be to clean them up. Now that the time is ripe, isn't it good to pull them out cleanly? Shen Miao frowned and heard from Xie Jingxing, I know that you like to gamble deep in your bones. In the beginning, when you were alone and weak, you dared to scheme against Prince Yu of the first rank, but it is too dangerous and the possibility of self-harm is too high. I do not like it. He said, a Pyrrhic victory with too many sacrifices is also a defeat. Shen Miao had to admit that what Xie Jingxing said was very reasonable. In the beginning, she dared to confront Prince Yu of the first rank and even Fu Xiu Yi. It was because she was fighting alone and used a stone to hit the jade wares. The one that was injured the most was ultimately the jade wares. Afterwards, as the Shun family was gradually involved, she had to take into account many things and could not be as free as before. And this time, for Xie Jingxing, if they were evenly matched in strength, the longer it dragged on, the one who would suffer losses would be the Great Liang's commoners. If one had enough strength like now, it would be easy to wipe out the Liu family in one fell swoop, and the sacrifices would be reduced to a minimum. But since the Liu family is like this, what about the Yi family? Shen Miao still had doubts and hesitated to speak, but in the end she hesitated to speak. Previously, Imperial older brother planned to rope in the Yi family, since the Yi family does not have any heirs and only have a young master who is not good at walking and would not be able to stir up any waves. Xie Jingxing said, but since you told me about your dream, Yi Mei and younger brother are enemies. How can enemies be roped in? That would be seeking one's own destruction. He said, do not worry. I will help you take revenge. Chapter 1037. Shen Miao was silent for a long time before softly saying, thank you. To make the other party change a plan that had been planned for a long time, it was not just a matter of words. Everything related to this plan had to be replanned, not to mention how troublesome it would be. The most frightening thing about a plan was that there would be variables. However, Xie Jingxing was willing to bear all the possible consequences for her. How lucky was she to meet such a person in this lifetime? Xie Jingxing saw that her expression was strange and hooked Shen Miao's chin to make her lift her head up. After a careful look, he said, why are you so moved to this state? Why not use your body to repay me? Shen Miao pushed him and scolded, what nonsense are you talking about? How do you plan to deal with the Yi family? Xie Jingxing thought for a moment and said, this is not difficult. Since the Yi family cannot be part of our imperial family, naturally they are in cahoots with the Liu family. Find the evidence of the Liu and Yi family's private dealings. If the Liu family is in trouble, the Yi family would also be unlucky. Aren't you very smart? How come you don't even know how to frame others? Shen Miao looked at him dumbfoundedly. Xie Jingxing was actually able to say the crime of framing others in such a dignified manner that those who did not know would think that he had done something indomitable. And to frame the prime minister of a country was not such a simple matter. The Yi family is actually easier to deal with than the Liu family. The Yi family is just complicated with the civil officials in the court, but once the Liu family is unlucky, the Yi family would be implicated. As long as the civil officials are not fools, they would draw a clear line with the Yi family. After so many years, The two trusted aides that Emperor Xiao Wu left behind have their strength worn down and are not as glorious as they were in the past. Shen Miao thought about it and said, "It is not that their strength has been worn down, but that your strength has grown to the point where you do not need to be restrained by them." The cub had finally grown into the king of beasts, so it was time to clean up those clowns in the forest. Xie Jingxing looked at her and teased. "You respect me this much?" Shen Miao said without any expression. "It is respect. It is respect. Since foreign is so supportive, then one must serve foreign well." Xie Jingxing solemnly said and turned over to press Shen Miao under him. Shen Miao, in the Yi residence. Yi Mei and Yi Ku were talking in the room. Yi Maokai prided himself on being a scholar, so the furnishings in his room were naturally very elegant. There were paintings and orchids everywhere, but upon closer inspection, the paintings and orchids were all treasured works by famous masters, and the orchids were also high-grade flowers. Even the paperweight on the table was expensive. It could be seen that the Yi family was indeed wealthy. Scholars were true, but poor scholars were not necessarily true. There were exquisite desserts on the table. Yi Mei wore a bright yellow silk robe with lotus flowers inlaid with crystals and a long skirt. Whether it was the material or the workmanship, these clothes were of the best quality. Her appearance was already outstanding, and with this outfit, even the nobles in the palace would pale in comparison. She had a natural charm and was very charming and beautiful. Ika sat opposite her. His clothes were as simple as before, but the fabric was of a higher level. Clearly, in the Yi family, the two of them were living quite well. "Sis, what did you mean by that?" Yiko asked with a frown. Yi Mei picked up the tea on the table and took a sip before lightly saying, "Previously, when Yi Foreign was looking for a daughter, she kept insisting that I am her daughter. This matter was too chaotic, and one did not know if it was true or false. But at least we have found a good place to go. After father and mother died, the shops could no longer be taken care of. Moreover, it is much better to be an official's daughter than a merchant's daughter. It is the same for you. With Prime Minister Yi as your father, your career will be smoother." Chapter 1038. Ika smiled bitterly. "Of course I know this, but didn't Yi Maokai not believe in our identities?" Yi Mei and Yi Ku didn't believe that there was such a thing as a pie falling from the sky. But ever since the Yi clan came looking for their kin, the two siblings had no choice but to believe that there was such a good thing in this world. Rumor had it that more than 10 years ago, when Madame Yi was giving birth, she was instigated by a traitor, causing her daughter to wander outside. Finally, they found Yi Mei. Was this true? Yi Mei thought that this was definitely not true, because she and Yi Ku were born at the same time. However, people would always be paranoid. For example, Madame Yi, who looked very normal, insisted that Yi Mei was her daughter. No matter how she tried to persuade her, she refused to listen. She even insisted on bringing Yi Ku into the Yi mansion because of her relationship with Yi Mei. Yi Mei and her brother were on high alert. Later, Yi Maokai also came to see them. Yi Maokai was much more clear-headed than Madame Yi. He went straight to the point and said that the Yi siblings weren't Madame Ye's children. However, because of Madame Ye's insistence, Yi Maokai didn't want to stop her. For the sake of Madame Ye's health, he was willing to hide this lie and give the Yi siblings the identity of the Yi family's children. What kind of person was Yi Mei? She was incomparably astute. Without knowing the pros and cons, she naturally did not dare to jump into the fire pit. She thought of ways to inquire about the Yi family situation and found out that the Yi family was in a delicate position with the royal family. In addition, the Yi family only had a young master who could not walk and could be considered to have no successor. Yi Maokai naturally needed a pair of children to shut the mouths of the world, mutually benefiting, each taking what they needed. A cripple couldn't stir up any big waves. Wouldn't the wealth of the Yi residents fall into Yi Ku's hands in the end? And with the Yi family's name, if Yi Mei wanted to marry into a noble family in the future, it would be a matter of course. Even if Yi Maokai had other ideas, the siblings were not fools. They would naturally think of ways to get what they wanted. Therefore, The Yi siblings entered the Yi mansion and became the Yi family's young miss and young master. Madame Yi trusted them, and Yi Maokai guarded against them. This made no difference to the Yi siblings. The Yi family was just a springboard, a backer that could help them walk faster in the future. Yi Mei said, "It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. You and I are both businessmen, so just treat him as a businessman. It's just that this deal seems to be a loss. I didn't expect things to turn out like this." Yi Mei said, "Before, I thought the Yi family was strong and long Yi. Yi Mei's phone, Yi Mei's Maokai, Yi family, families, Yi family sect. However, in recent days, I feel that something is wrong. The Yi family is not as good as I thought. It seems to be in imminent danger. If we take a step forward, we will be able to live without worries. However, if we don't do well, we will fall into a bottomless abyss and suffer a double loss." When Yika heard this, his expression also became somewhat ugly. He said, "You mean the Yi family's current situation is very dangerous?" "I don't know if it's dangerous." Yi Mei sneered. "Yi Maokai, that old fox, hid it well and refused to let us know the Yi family situation. Although Madame Yi trusts me, she trusts Yi Maokai even more. It is harder than ascending to heaven to get information out of her. But the more it is like this, the more uneasy I feel. I feel that the Yi residence is not good. Maybe you are thinking too much." Yika thought about it and shook his head. "The Yi family is the prime minister of the Great Liang. How could it reach the step he said? As for the Yi family being wary of us, it is probably because the time is too short. After all, we are all in the same boat. Otherwise, when you suggested to assassinate Rui Wang Fei, the Yi family would not have agreed so easily. It is a pity that Rui Wang Fei was lucky and was saved by that scholar, escaping a calamity." Chapter 1039. Yi Mei's eyes congealed before she suddenly laughed. "She really has a good life and really good luck. But older sister." Yika looked at her. "In the beginning, why did you let the Yi family kill Princess Rui? Was it really because you wanted to enter the residence of Prince Rui? One always feel that this decision was made in a hurry and without much consideration." Yi Mei paused and thought for a while before saying, "If I say that the first time I saw her, I felt that I do not want her to live in this world, would you believe it?" Yiku was startled for a moment, but Yi Mei was still deep in thought. When she just came along Yi with the Yi family, it was just as Xie Yuan had returned from hunting in the imperial city. Yi Maokai gave her the antidote and wanted her to pretend that she had inadvertently opened the bounty list to save him. Naturally, the Yi family could take out the antidote, and most likely Prince Rui's injury was related to them. If Yi Mei used the identity of a Yi family member to save him, it would be hard to avoid suspicion from the Yi family. It would be better to say that she was looking for relatives, and it would be more logical to find out that she was from the Yi family. Yi Maokai wanted to use Yi Mei to connect to the residence of Prince Rui. Yi Mei was born beautiful and was also Xie Yuan's savior. The longer she stayed in the residence of Prince Rui, the more natural some things would happen. At that time, Yi Mei saw Prince Rui, Xie Yuan. Towards men, Yi Mei could not say that she loved or did not love them. She had ambitions and means, and men were tools to achieve her goals. If there was a better one, she would change to another one. To her, it was like a beautiful person needed to be matched with gorgeous clothes, precious jewelry, and a rich residence. Naturally, she needed a noble husband. Xie Yuan was the best one she had seen since she grew up. He had a high position of power at a young age, and was also born with a romantic beauty. Even if he was lying quietly, he had a natural noble air and attracted the attention of others. Not to mention that Yi Mei had heard from Yi Maokai that Xie Yuan was a very powerful person with many means. It was normal for her to want such a good person for herself, and Xie Yuan's indifference made her want to conquer him. She heard that Xie Yuan had a princess, but Yi Mei had never seen her before. Knowing that that woman was the daughter of a Ming-Chi military general, she did not think much of it. The daughter of a military general was unbearably vulgar and came here alone without any backing. Yi Mei did not even feel that the other person had the qualifications to be her opponent, until the moment she saw Shun Miao. Shun Miao's clothes were still somewhat muddy, and her hair was untidy. Her face was also travel-worn, but she stood in front of Yi Mei against the light. Her posture was dignified, as if she was an overbearing beast declaring her sovereignty. It was obvious that Yi Mei was the brightest, and Shun Miao was in a difficult situation. But at that moment, Yi Mei had an absurd feeling that even if she used all her strength, she wouldn't be able to snatch anything from the woman in front of her. In the days that followed, Shun Miao was rather cold towards her, and occasionally Yi Mei could feel a faint disgust and hatred. But since ancient times, a woman's feelings were all relative. Not only did Shun Miao feel uncomfortable with her, Yi Mei also felt uncomfortable with Shun Miao. One heard that Shun Miao had parents who doted on her, eldest brother who cared for her, good friends and sisters, and also Xie Yuan who doted on her. Although it was the Cold War, the bystanders knew best. If there was no love, why would there be a Cold War? It was clear that he loved her to the bone. That was why his every move would involve his own emotions. The more she compared, the more unwilling Yi Mei felt. Why should all the good things in this world be enjoyed by Shun Miao alone? She had an aloof temperament and did not know how to act coquettishly. So how could she obtain Xie Yuan's favor? What she was most unwilling to accept was that people who were inferior to her lived better than her. Yi Mei was jealous and disgusted. She loved to snatch other people's things and make those things her own. But it seemed that it would be very difficult to snatch Shun Miao's things. Then what should be done? It would be better to let Shun Miao disappear. So Yi Mei told Yi Maokai that only if Shun Miao died and Xie Yuan's Wangfei position was empty, she was confident that she could grasp Xie Yuan's heart. Rather than saying that Yi Mei wanted to snatch Xie Yuan, it would be better to say that Yi Mei could not see Shun Miao living better than her. Yi Mei was not willing to lose to Shun Miao. Yi Maokai originally wanted Yi Mei to climb up to Prince Rui's residence and finally agreed. But who would have thought that Shun Miao did not die and that there was someone who was willing to protect Shun Miao without hesitation? Moreover, because of the Yi family's rash actions, Xie Yuan seemed to have some suspicions and kept a close eye on the Yi family. Yi Maokai even vented his anger on Yi Mei. In Yi Mei's entire life, she had never failed in the things she wanted. She used all kinds of people that she could use and had always been smooth sailing. Snatching other people's things was also very handy, no matter if it was an object or a person or even a person's heart. But she hit a wall with Shun Miao. She could not snatch Shun Miao's man, nor could she snatch Shun Miao's life, and even more could she not snatch Shun Miao's good luck. Chapter 1040. Now one heard that Prince Rui and Princess Rui have a deep relationship. Yika said, a few days ago, one heard that both of them held hands and roamed around Longyi City. It can be seen that Prince Rui loves Shun Miao to the bones. Speaking of which, that Shun Miao's appearance is not as good as yours. One do not know how the other party is so dead set on her. Yika looked at Yi Mei. Older sister, do you still want to enter the residence of Prince Rui? Yi Mei was somewhat distraught. She could not display her advantage in front of Xie Yuan at all. Initially in Qinzhou, if she wanted to use any man, naturally she would be invincible. But facing Xie Yuan, she always felt that she did not know where to start. Xie Yuan did not pay attention to her at all. Yi Mei could feel that Xie Yuan's gaze on her was no different from looking at Lu Wan'er, and was no different from all the young ladies of official families in Mingqi. She felt that she could not conquer Xie Yuan because Xie Yuan did not see her as a woman. Thinking of this, Yi Mei said in an evasive manner, let's talk about it later. Yi Maokai did not mention the matter for the time being, so there is no need to think about it. The most urgent matter is to find out what is wrong with the Yi family. If the Yi family is unlucky one day, you and I cannot be implicated, so it is better to make plans early. Actually, Yika hemmed and hawed. Previously, Yi Maokai looked for me once and had the intention to let you enter the palace. Enter the palace? Yi Mei's eyebrows jumped, and she suddenly laughed. She laughed in a flirtatious manner, but there was a meaningful feeling. Yi Maokai saw that Xie Yuan was not easy to hook up with and let me climb up to the imperial family. Enter the palace. Naturally, it was not an ordinary palace, but to enter the palace to be the emperor's woman. Yi Mei sneered. There is no air in the palace, so there must be something fishy. If I enter the palace and do not have an heir, one would have no one to rely on after 100 years. If the emperor dies, would one have to be buried with him? Yi Maokai only has the idea of befriending the imperial family. No matter if I live or die, I will not return to the palace. Let him break this thought. At the end of the words, there was a sinister meaning. It wasn't that Yi Mei hadn't thought of entering the palace, but she had always been good at analyzing the pros and cons. Now that the emperor didn't have a son, it was probably the emperor's own problem. How long could a woman without a son live in the inner palace? Not to mention the harem. Even if it was the backyard of a wealthy family without a son, the only outcome would be death or a lifetime of living in peace. This was not what Yi Mei wanted. She wanted to climb up, keep climbing up, and enjoy power. These were more important than being a woman who entered the palace and became an emperor. Yika said awkwardly, "I also guessed that you thought so I immediately told Yi Maokai that it was impossible." "Oh." Yi Mei glanced at him and lightly said, "You really told him that?" Yiku avoided Yi Mei's gaze and said, "Sister, you still don't believe me?" Yi Mei smiled, but no one knew what that smile meant. She said, "In short, you and I have to be clear about our identities. The Yi family isn't our real family, and the Yi family isn't family either. Moreover, family members have their own selfish motives. I will think of a way to figure out what exactly happened to the Yi family and what they plan to do. If one day the Yi family is unlucky, the two of us shouldn't fall into it. The best plan is to retreat unscathed." "Sister, it's not that serious." Yi could disagreed. If it really was that serious, the Yi family would have already started looking for a way out for themselves. Yi Mei laughed coldly. "I'm afraid that the Yi family doesn't even know that a disaster is imminent." As they spoke, they heard someone call from outside the door. "Big sister, second brother." Yiku went forward to open the door and saw a manservant pushing Yi Hongguang outside. Although Yi Maokai was shrewd, he treated his crippled son well. He ordered people to specially make a chair that could move for him and let the manservant push it so that he could walk around the Yi residence. However, Madam Yi didn't like the son of this concubine who was raised under her name. Chapter 1041. Yi Hongguang liked Yi Mei and Yi Ku very much. He probably felt that the Yi Fu had been quiet for many years. Suddenly having siblings come, he was always happy. His personality was also very pure, like a child. He didn't seem to have been raised by the Yi family. But thinking about it, he never left the Fu. Other than playing chess with Yi Maokai, he only read. It was natural to have such a pure personality. Yi Mei smiled and asked, "Does third brother have something?" Yi Hongguang didn't look like Yi Maokai, nor did he look like Yi Madam. He probably looked more like that concubine who had passed away. His features were very delicate. He also smiled and said, "Father wants you to go to the study. I came to deliver the 9 chain rings to the Jiejia on the way. I heard that the Jiejia is an expert in solving the 9 chain rings, so I brought it over." Yi Mei took the 9 chain rings and said, "When I solve it, I will personally deliver it to third brother." "Thank you, de Jiejia." Yi Hongguang seemed very excited. Yi Mei smiled faintly and turned to look at Yi Ke. They both saw the seriousness in each other's eyes. At this time, Yi Maokai called the two of them into the study. It was clear that there was something new for them to do, using the two of them as chess pieces. But would Yi Mei and the others be obedient and let others do as they pleased? It would definitely be another round of guessing, and I would fight. The news of Jing Fei's pregnancy spread throughout all of Long Yi the next day. Emperor Yong Lu had been childless for so many years, and naturally there were all sorts of speculations. The most common one was that Emperor Yong Lu was suffering from a hidden illness and was unable to have children of his own. It was precisely because of this that the open and secret struggles in the imperial court had never stopped. But Jing Fei was pregnant. This meant a lot more. It most likely wasn't Emperor Yong Li's problem. Maybe Emperor Yong Lu had purposefully done it. But now that Emperor Yong Lu had made Jing Fei pregnant, it seemed to explain some problems. Therefore, the court officials started to move again, wanting to send the daughter of the Fu into the palace. On the other side, some of Long Ye's court officials that were neutral and had a wait-and-see attitude started to make new decisions. No matter what, Jing Fei's pregnancy had a great impact on the Hogong of the Great Liang Court. When Shun Miao talked about the matter to Xie Jingxing, she said, previously because the emperor did not have any children, the inner palace was peaceful and there were not many disputes. But once the news of consort Jing's pregnancy spread out, all the ministers wanted to send their daughters into the palace and rush to give birth. One feared that the inner palace would be in chaos. A pool of calm water, suddenly stirred up by a stone thrown into it, was the scariest thing. Xie Jingxing smiled. That would also need to be able to give birth. Emperor Yong Lu had all of them drink birth control soup. Jing Fei was an accident, but because of this accident, the palace would definitely be stricter in this area in the future and wouldn't let anyone find any loopholes. But the Lu family is too impatient. Shun Miao propped her chin up. Before the palace spread it out, it was already spread out. The entire Long Yi knows about it now. The faster one wears, the faster one will die. Xie Jingxing was wearing his outer robes when Shun Miao stood up to help him tidy his collar. He looked down at Shun Miao and said, "But if you're pregnant with my child, I will also let others spread it to everyone in Long Yi." Shun Miao glared at him fiercely. "If you dare to let other females be pregnant with your child?" "What?" Xie Jingxing frowned. Shun Miao pulled his collar harshly and said fiercely, "The matter of the entire household of Prince Rui being exterminated will be spread to everyone in Long Yi." Xie Jingxing laughed out loud and held her waist before whispering ambiguously in her ear, "One fear that it will not work if one is exhausted with a fierce wife at home." Chapter 1042. Valiant. Shun Miao was about to get angry. Xie Jingxing still wanted to say something when an octagonal voice was heard from outside. "Master, Foreign, the horse carriage is ready. Shall we depart now?" Shun Miao released her hands and said, "Come back first before talking." Xie Jingxing smiled evilly in the midst of chaos. "You can pick as you please." Shun Miao, get lost. They wanted to enter the palace. These few days, Xie Jingxing frequently ran to the palace and should be discussing with Emperor Yong Lu about how to deal with the Lu family. The Lu family most likely felt the pressure and started to arrange their troops. On the other hand, they felt that Consort Jing was pregnant and Emperor Yong Lu would definitely not do anything to the Lu family. On one hand, they were suspicious, and on the other hand, they firmly believed that the Lu family was in a mess and it was the imperial family's intention. Various forces started to arrange, and Xie Jingxing appeared to be exceptionally busy. Shun Miao also guessed the current and future situation of Ming Qi from the letter that Pei Lang left behind, and at the same time helped the Shun family to escape from Fu Xiuyi surveillance. Today, Shun Miao also planned to enter the palace to see Empress Xianda, and coincidentally, Xie Jingxing also wanted to enter the palace, so both husband and wife went together. Upon reaching the palace, Xie Jingxing went to the imperial study to see Emperor Yong Lu. Shun Miao wanted to see Empress Xianda, and Tao Gugu led her there. Shun Miao saw that the path was covered with carpets, and there were more palace maids walking in the palace. She felt it was strange and asked what was going on. Tao Gugu said, "This was instructed by Consort Jing." Fearing that one would injure the child while walking, there were more palace maids than usual. These days the womb was tormented up and down. The Empress was kind and could not be bothered to argue with her, but she almost turned the inner palace upside down. Tao Gugu was Empress Xianda's female official and did not need to care about what she said. Because of her relationship with Empress Xianda, she treated Shun Miao as one of her own and did not conceal her disgust towards Consort Jing. She said, "He didn't do anything too excessive, but he was very annoying and made me feel unhappy." Shun Miao raised her eyebrows and asked, "Then what is the emperor's attitude?" Tao Gugu smiled strangely. The emperor did not change his attitude towards Consort Jing because of this child, and it was because Consort Jing was sulking, so she came up with so many tricks. She then thought of something and said, "Today, the young miss and young master of the Yi family also entered the palace." The young miss of the Yi family also came to visit Jing Fei. She's probably in Jinghua Palace. Qin Wangfei didn't see anyone from the Yi family when she entered the palace. Yi family? Xin Miao shook her head. I did not see it, but her heart was thinking. The Yi family's young miss and young master naturally referred to Yi Mei and Yi Ku. Yi Mei and Yi Ku came to see Jing Fei. The Lu family and the Yi family did not have a particularly close relationship to begin with. How could it have reached this point? Suddenly coming to see Jing Fei. She most likely had ulterior motives. Was she planning something? But to let Yi Mei talk to Jing Fei. Not to mention Yi Mei, Jing Fei was stupid. How could she bear such a great responsibility? I'm afraid the Yi family has found the wrong person. She vaguely felt that something was wrong, but she was here to see Empress Xianda, so it was not good to talk about this matter with Tao Gugu. With doubts, she went to the Imperial Garden. Empress Xianda was not in Weiyang Palace. The summer gradually came to an end. Even though Long Ye's summer was long, at the end, it also started to feel cold. There were many hot days, and it was rare to have a refreshing time. It was good to sit in the garden and enjoy the wind. When Shen Miao saw Empress Xianda, she was boiling tea to drink. Seeing Shen Miao arrive, she invited her to taste tea. This is Qiu Shan Huang, the new tea leaves scent this year. Ben Gong likes it very much. You should also try it. Empress Xianda said with a smile. She seemed to like drinking tea very much. She herself was as fragrant as the tea leaves and was a woman with a lingering aftertaste. Chapter 1043. Shen Miao picked up the teacup and tasted a mouthful. She only felt bitterness in her mouth, and in the bitterness, there was a lingering fragrance. It was indeed a very unique, good tea. Empress Xianda asked, "How is it?" Shen Miao put down the teacup. The tea that Empress brewed is also top-notch. Bengong do not have any hobbies and only like this idea. Empress Xianda smiled. This tea is bitter, and most young females do not like it. But we do not know why. One felt that you would like it. Most likely that Bengong felt that you and Bengong are somewhat similar. Shen Miao did not dare, and Empress Xianda smiled without a care. Let's not talk about this anymore. After you returned that night, Jing Xing should have told you about the matters in the palace. Shen Miao was slightly surprised. He said a little. You'll be curious. Jing Xing dotes on his wife and naturally would tell you everything. Empress Xianda smiled. Then what do you feel after hearing it? What do you feel about the current situation? These words seemed to have some meaning of testing Shen Miao. Shen Miao did not dare to be vague and thought about it before saying, now that the Lu family's fate is a foregone conclusion, the child in Jing Fei's womb would not be able to turn the tide. Since His Majesty and His Highness have already made a decision, then let nature take its course. What about the child? Empress Xianda took a sip of tea and asked, do you think that the child will be kept or not? Shen Miao paused before saying, whether the child is kept or not would not affect the overall situation. To make this decision, one would have to look at your ladyship's heart. Bengong's heart. Empress Xianda sighed slightly. In Bengong's heart, there's always been a thorn in it. But to say to remove this thorn, Bengong is not ruthless enough. She smiled self-mockingly. This position of Empress is really not suitable for Bengong. It is one thing to be used to it, but it is another thing to be suitable. Shen Miao did not speak. At this time, whatever she said would not be right. Empress Xianda changed the topic. Qin Wangfei, there is no doubt that you could be a good female mistress of the entire residence of Prince Ray. But if in the future you have to shoulder a heavier burden and face more complicated things, can you do it well? Shen Miao's heart jumped. Empress Xianda's words seemed to be hinting at something. If it was in the past, Shen Miao would not have thought much about it. But Xie Jingxing had told her about Emperor Yongle. If Emperor Yongle did not live past the age of 35, and if Emperor Yongle had other plans, Shen Miao almost immediately guessed their plans. She composed herself and said, Your Highness, no one can say for sure what will happen in the future. However, this official wife will accompany His Highness. Whatever His Highness does, this official wife will assist him. Empress Xianda looked at her for a while, shook her head, and sighed. You have no ambition. That's very good. But this is not good either. She said, however, Jing Xing is not the emperor, so your luck is very good. But you have to understand that one day, when you reach a certain height, many things will be beyond your control. You don't like it, but you can't show it. You must do it, because it is the law of the world. Was Empress Xianda talking about her own feelings? Shen Miao calmly said, this official's wife will not do that. In the beginning, when the principle of the world was first brought up, it was also doubted. If one cannot stick to one's heart, there would be no meaning in reaching a higher position. One will not be able to do it, but it is because one does not work hard enough to change the surrounding environment. When Empress Xianda heard it, she was absent-minded for a long time. When she finally reacted, she looked deeply at Shen Miao. That look was very complicated, and Shen Miao could not explain it clearly. Perhaps it was envy and a little self-mockery. She said, perhaps what you said is right. But Ben Gong's half-life has passed, and there is no time to change. She was somewhat embarrassed. Shen Miao sensed that compared to the last time, Empress Xianda looked more experienced, but it was not her appearance. She still looked elegant and graceful, charming, and had the virtue and steadiness of an empress. But her eyes had a faint vicissitude, as if she was an old woman. Chapter 1044. Was it because of Consort Jing? Shen Miao thought about it in her heart and asked, heard that the Yi siblings also entered the palace today and saw Consort Jing. The Lu family produced an empress with a spoiled dragon seed. Thus the bugs and Long Yi would naturally become restless. The Yi family came and went to the palace, and today they came to see Ben Gong, but Ben Gong saw that the drunkard's intention was not wine, so Ben Gong followed them. Most likely the Yi family saw that Lu Jing was pregnant and had other intentions, so they wanted to probe Lu Jing's side. Empress Xianda's gaze was somewhat long. The young lady that the Yi family found was extremely beautiful. Not only beautiful, but also intelligent. Not only intelligent, but also ambitious. This kind of female is most suitable to survive in the inner palace. Shen Miao's gaze slightly stagnated. Yi Mei wants to enter the palace? Mei Foran finally became the empress of Ming Qi's Fu Xiu Yi, and now, not only did her identity become a great Liang person, even her future also changed? Could it be that she wanted to become Emperor Yong Li's woman and also want to be the Great Liang's empress? Shen Miao felt that it was very ridiculous and funny. Approximately so, Empress Xianda said carelessly. But Long Ye's harem only exists in name. If Yi Mei wants to fight for affection, jealousy, and power, she has miscalculated. Moreover, His Majesty does not intend to accept anyone now. What she has other ways? Shen Miao asked. Yi Mei was vicious and merciless, and would climb up by hook or by crook. She had personally experienced this in the previous lifetime, so to let Yi Mei return without any achievements, it was impossible no matter how one looked at it. Shen Miao did not want to underestimate the opponent and did not want to make a big mistake because of her own carelessness. Empress Xianda looked strangely at Shen Miao and said, you seem to dislike this Yi family's young lady. Then she said with relief, indeed, this Yi Mei's heart is not right, and Ben Gong can see it. Ben Gong had stayed in the palace for so many years, and Yi Mei's eyes are too greedy, so it is natural for you to be wary of her. At the beginning during the imperial hunt, there were rumors that you targeted Yi Mei because of jealousy. Thus Ben Gong guessed that Yi Mei was not simple. Seeing it today, it is indeed so. Shen Miao said, this official's wife indeed do not like her. Because of Jing Xing? Empress Xianda blinked her eyes mischievously and joked. Don't worry, Jing Xing himself is very smart. He won't like a smarter woman. I don't like greedy and ambitious people like Yi Mei even more. Shen Miao. Empress Xianda's words made her sound like she was very stupid. Jing Xing and His Majesty have discussed that the Yi family should not be too involved. Ben Gong guesses that you're also one of the reasons. However, Ben Gong does not like the Yi family in the first place. Although the Yi family is a civil official, They do not have the demeanor of a civil official. Instead, they're slick and hypocritical, secretly harboring thoughts of disloyalty. Everyone in the Yi family cultivates crooked ways, but Empress Xianda seemed to think of something and said, "The young master of the Yi family is not bad. Ben Gong talked to him, and he is as innocent as a child. It is a pity that he is not good at walking, and is not respected in the Fu." Shen Miao had also heard of the matters of the crippled young master of the Yi family, but she did not know what his character was like. Hearing Empress Xianda say that, she could not help but sigh. He was a rare good person, but his luck was too bad. Empress Xianda said, "In a short while, the situation in Long Yi will be very tense. One fear that the residence of Prince Rue will be closely watched. Jing Xing is often outside, and there are places in the residence that cannot be taken care of. It is said that it is hard to guard against. You have to be more careful." Shen Miao's expression turned solemn. This official's wife understands. Dealing with the Liu and Yi families would undoubtedly set off a storm in Long Yi City. As Xie Jingxing's wife and the Wang Fei of the residence of Prince Rue, she would naturally be the target of public criticism. Empress Xianda patted her hands. "You have to start learning these now." Chapter 1045. Shen Miao complied, and just as she was speaking, she saw Tao Gugu in a little palace maid walking over. Tao Gugu said, "Hui Pin and Ning Gairan are quarreling at the flowery small building. Right now, they are at a point where they can't be reconciled. Nyang Nyang, do you want to go take a look?" These days, Jing Fei was pregnant, and the other womenfolk in the palace were starting to lose their composure. Originally, no one had any heirs, so it didn't matter if they were favored by the emperor or not. But now it was different. When one person ascended to the heavens, everyone else wanted to do it. Everyone had their own selfish motives, and there were more conflicts than in the past. In addition, there were many officials who had the idea of sending people to Emperor Yongli's side. This inner palace was no longer as peaceful as it used to be. Once in a while, there would be some chaos. Although it was not a big deal, it would always cause trouble for others. A displeased expression appeared on Empress Xianda's face. No matter how good one's temper was, after being troubled like this all day, one would be in a bad mood. "Your ladyship, go take a look first." Shen Miao said, "No need to care about me." She did not have the thought of following Empress Xianda to watch the bustle, as Long Ye's inner palace had nothing to do with Shen Miao and could not help at all. Empress Xianda was helpless and could only stand up and said to Shen Miao, "Ben Gong will first make a trip to the flowers courtyard. Qin Wang Fei can rest here and drink tea. If one feels bored, then walk around the garden, as long as one does not go too far." Shen Miao had anise and fennel by her side, and they were all skilled in martial arts, so she was not afraid of any accidents. Moreover, there were guards everywhere in the palace, so naturally it was safe. Shen Miao complied, and Empress Xianda and Tao Gugu walked far away. As Shen Miao held the teacup, Empress Xianda's words appeared in her mind. She felt that Empress Xianda's words had a hidden meaning and had thought before, if Emperor Yongle really could not live for long. After Emperor Yongle left, who would sit on the great Liang's country? Previously, Jing Fei wasn't pregnant. It seemed that their plan wasn't to let Emperor Yongli's son inherit the throne. Moreover, the poison in Emperor Yongli's body had not been cleared, and the children he gave birth to might be congenitally deficient and would not be able to take on the great cause. As such, the only one with the imperial bloodline who had the qualifications to inherit the great Liang's throne was only Xie Jingxing. Did Xie Jingxing become the emperor in his previous life? At least when she died. When Ming Qi fell, Emperor Yongle was still alive, and Xie Jingxing only led the troops to conquer the world. Was Xie Jingxing going to be the emperor in this life? If Xie Jingxing became the emperor, she would definitely be the empress. Since ancient times, there was no precedent of only one person in the inner palace. She was certain of what she said to Empress Xianda, and she would indeed not tolerate her husband having other women. Once this possibility came true, what Shen Miao could do was, since you are not interested, I will divorce, breaking off with Xie Jingxing. However, Fate was hard to come by. She didn't want to cut off the fate of husband and wife that she had accumulated for 2 lifetimes. Feeling a little annoyed, she stood up and decided to walk to the side of the pond to get some fresh air. Star Anise and Fennel followed her. The garden was densely forested, and under the layers of trees, there were winding paths, one after another, extending in all directions. Everywhere, there was a new scenery, and it was very elegant. It was just that Shen Miao was not in the mood to appreciate the beautiful scenery. She walked to the side of the pond, and the cool breeze blew on her face. It was refreshing and very comfortable, and also calmed her down. After standing for a while, she planned to return to the stone table and sit down. She guessed that Empress Xianda should be back by now. Before leaving, her eyes casually glanced at the forest on the side. It was this glance. Shen Miao suddenly stopped in her tracks. She stared at the side and felt that the blood in her body was both cold and hot. It rushed to her head, and she almost couldn't stand steadily. Star Anise and Fennel also looked nervously to the side, but they didn't find anything. Shen Miao suddenly pushed aside the bushes in front of her and ran to the path on the side. "Madam!" Star Anise and Fennel were shocked and hurried to follow. Shen Miao ran so fast that she didn't notice her hair and clothes rubbing against the dust on the branches. Looking closely, her hands were still trembling violently, her lips were white, and her eyes were wide open. She didn't dare to relax at all. She saw it. The youth's face was hidden in the branches of the forest, with a slightly shy smile and a familiar expression. It was Fu Ming, her son Fu Ming. She couldn't be wrong. She couldn't be wrong. Shen Miao ran desperately, but there were 8 paths in the Imperial Garden, and each path led to a different place. The trees were dense, and the youth disappeared in a flash, almost making her think that it was her illusion. There was no path in front, only a corner of the dark lake, a rockery, and a long pavilion. Shen Miao couldn't find the youth. Fennel and Star Anise followed behind and saw Shen Miao standing in the same place, not knowing what she was thinking and looking very lost. The 3 of them didn't make any other movements, but suddenly heard a woman's short scream in front, followed by the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground. Plop! You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.